The night was supposed to be quiet, the kind of quiet where nobody could judge my terrible jogging form, or the way my lungs started begging for mercy after 5 minutes. I was halfway down the trail behind my backyard when the sky suddenly tore open with a sound like someone ripping a universe-sized piece of duct tape. A streak of burning metal roared overhead, so close I felt my eyebrows get a little too warm. Before I could even scream properly, the thing slammed into the ground 20 feet away, blasting me backward into my neighbor's trash bins. I hit the pavement with a grunt, and a crushed soda can stuck to my cheek like a decorative sticker of failure. Smoke poured from the crater. Sparks snapped. A hatch hissed open like it was offended at having to function under these conditions. And then she stepped out. 7 feet tall. Built like someone sculpted a goddess out of gym memberships and battlefield trauma. Her armor flickered with dying blue energy lines, and her expression said she had absolutely no patience left for existence. I blinked at her. She blinked at me. For one horrible second, we just stared, and I was positive she was going to vaporize me for being within breathing distance. She raised a hand, pointed right at me, and growled something fierce enough to rearrange the atoms in my spine. Then her chest plate sparked, and a robotic voice buzzed out. Local hostile detected. Engaging dominance protocol. Hostile? I squeaked, hands raised like a toddler caught stealing cookies. Lady, I'm just jogging. She did not care. She stomped toward me with battlefield confidence, grabbed me like I weighed less than her left boot, and flipped me over her shoulder. One moment I was upright, the next I was staring at grass, pinned in a wrestling hold that probably violated several Earth laws. She leaned down, face inches from mine, her breath warm and extremely judgmental. Then something changed. She froze. Completely. Her pupils expanded like she just tasted chocolate for the first time. Her breathing hitched. She sniffed the air around me, slowly, deliberately, like she was analyzing my soul's scent. A device on her wrist chirped. A calm robotic tone announced, "Atmospheric contamination detected. Pheromone imbalance." Then it followed up with, "Imprinting partner identified." I didn't even get to panic properly. My brain just went blank, my mouth hung open, and somewhere in the distance a dog barked, probably judging me. "Imprinted partner?" I whispered. She lifted her head, staring down at me like I had suddenly turned into the universe's most fascinating dessert. She touched my cheek with 2 fingers, her expression softening in a way that absolutely did not match her terrifying entrance. "Earth male," her translator buzzed. "Soft. Warm. Squishy." She paused, her voice dropping. "I want. Please don't want me?" I said, voice cracking like I was going through puberty again. Slowly, reluctantly, she released me, though not all the way. She hovered over me like a protective guard dog made of steel. When I sat up, she followed. When I scooted back 3 inches, she scooted forward 3 inches. When I tried to stand, she grabbed my waist and hauled me up like I was a human backpack she'd decided to keep. I managed a strangled, Okay, let's go to my yard where fewer things explode, please?" She followed me, never more than 6 inches away, sniffing the air, sniffing me, sniffing the fence like it was a suspicious enemy. She snarled at my lawn gnome and kicked it over because it stares wrong. I didn't argue with her. I didn't even breathe loudly. Once we reached the back steps, she finally spoke in full sentences, though they were still delivered with the tone of someone one tiny inconvenience away from throwing a tank. "My vessel crashed during conflict. I am veteran of many cycles. Tired of war. Tired of commands. Tired of idiots." She jabbed a thumb toward the smoking crater. "Ship malfunctioned. Then atmosphere mixed with my internal chemistry. Instincts triggered. I touched you. Imprint formed." Her nostrils flared. "Now I cannot be more than 20 paces from you for approximately 2 Earth days." 2 days? I squeaked. "Like 48 hours? Of this?" She nodded solemnly. "Or my body destabilizes. Hormones collapse. Possibly I explode." "Explode?" "Internally. she added, like that somehow made it better. Painful. Very messy. You would faint. I'm close to fainting right now, I shouted. She ignored my panic entirely, placing a giant hand on my shoulder like she was claiming ownership. For 2 cycles, human, I stay near you. You are now my imprinted source. I stared up at her muscular, battle-scarred, intensely possessive figure. This is not happening, I whispered. It is, she said, leaning down until her forehead almost touched mine. And you will adapt. My life had officially jumped off a cliff and hit every rock on the way down. I woke up to the sensation of being crushed by a warm boulder that breathed. For a few disoriented seconds, I thought my mattress had finally given up on life and collapsed on top of me. Then I felt an arm, no, a massive, rock-solid limb, wrapped around my torso like a seatbelt forged in a blacksmith's workshop. I tried to wiggle free. The arm squeezed tighter. A low growl rumbled behind me. Apparently, the mature alien warrior had decided the safest place to maintain her imprint connection was wrapped around me like an overly affectionate anaconda. I attempted diplomacy. Hey, personal space! She pulled me closer, chin resting on the top of my head. Instinct demands proximity. My ribs demand oxygen. She loosened her grip a little. Very little. When I finally extracted myself, she sat up, her hair messy, her expression intensely alert, as if waking up next to me was both confusing and weirdly satisfying. I stood, stretched, and tried to pretend this was somehow normal. She followed my every movement, eyes tracking me like I was both her pet and her emotional support snack. I attempted breakfast to calm my nerves. That lasted 2 minutes. She insisted on helping, grabbed the microwave to inspect its weakness, and accidentally crushed the entire front panel with one finger. She frowned at it like the appliance had disappointed her on a spiritual level. This device is fragile. That device was $100. She shrugged, opened the fridge, and grabbed a plastic bottle of dish soap, because of course she did. Before I could stop her, she lifted it, sniffed it, and took a swig. I screamed. She blinked calmly. Strange flavor. Like mint, but angry. You're not supposed to drink that. She considered the bottle, then nodded. Weak species. Too many warnings. I had no energy to argue, so I pulled her toward the sink to drink water and dilute whatever the cosmic consequences of soap consumption were. She leaned in close, towering over me, her warm breath brushing my neck every time she exhaled. It was impossible to ignore how intensely she was staring at me, like her instincts kept pulling her in. Her temperature felt higher than before, almost feverish. When I touched her wrist to check, she inhaled sharply, pupils dilating like I'd accidentally activated some hidden switch. Do not touch abruptly, she muttered, sounding flustered. Sorry! Just checking if you're overheating. I am fine, she insisted, then paused. Maybe. I didn't believe her, but before I could question it, a loud hum echoed outside the window. She jerked her head toward the sound, every muscle tensing. A drone hovered above the backyard, one of those high-altitude surveillance models that only governments or extremely nosy hobbyists owned. That is not good, I whispered. She narrowed her eyes. Hunters. No, no! I waved my arms frantically. Not hunters. Probably NASA. She tilted her head. NASA? Humans who look for aliens. And they search, by flying small machines near your dwelling? Pretty much. She cracked her knuckles. I will destroy them. No destroying NASA. Her jaw clenched like I had just forbidden her favorite hobby. The drone retreated, but I knew it was only a matter of time before someone showed up. I tried to distract her by suggesting we go out for groceries, because apparently my idea of crisis management included fresh vegetables. She followed me into the world like a 7-foot shadow glued to my hip. At the store, chaos began instantly. People stared. Of course they did. She looked like a warrior queen on vacation from a war nobody else knew about. Some assumed she was cosplaying. Others assumed she was in the world's most intense fitness competition. A kid whispered, "Mom, she looks like she could bench press a car." The mother whispered back, "Honey, she looks like she could bench press a planet." A teenager tried to take a selfie with her. She reacted like he was holding a weapon, grabbed him by the collar, and lifted him off the ground with one hand. I rushed to intervene. "Put him down! He's just being social." She dropped him gently, well, gently for her. He still landed like a sack of potatoes. Then it got worse. The cashier, a friendly woman with a bright smile, looked at me and said, "Hi. How are you today?" A normal greeting. Totally innocent. My alien warrior did not think so. She stepped between us, shoulders squared, glaring at the cashier. "Imprinted mail is under my protection." The cashier froze like she'd accidentally summoned a demon. I desperately waved my arms. "She's joking. She has a weird sense of humor." "I do not joke," the alien added helpfully. I dragged her away before she could challenge anyone to a duel. Outside, she muttered about how Earthlings display too much interest in me and how she should neutralize potential rivals. I nearly tripped over my own feet hearing that. "Please don't neutralize anyone," I said, gasping. "No promises," she replied, dead serious. By the time we made it back home, I was sweating and traumatized. She, on the other hand, seemed even more attached, walking slightly behind me, almost brushing against me every step. Her instincts were flaring hotter. She kept leaning in, her breath shaky, her focus sharper. Something inside her was intensifying. And just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, the black van rolled up to the curb, antennas bristling, logos hidden under duct tape. The door slid open. A group of scientists spilled out, holding tablets, scanners, and clipboards. She tensed beside me, eyes blazing, muscles coiling like she was preparing for war. I gulped. "Okay," I whispered. "Don't panic." "I never panic," she growled, stepping protectively in front of me. "But they will." The van doors opened like a dramatic reveal from a bad sci-fi movie, except these scientists were very real, very unprepared, and very terrified the moment they saw the 7-foot warrior standing in front of me like a living wall of muscle and doom. One of them, a thin guy with wild hair and the desperate energy of someone who lived on caffeine and conspiracies, held up a device that beeped loudly. He pointed it at her. It beeped louder. He squeaked. She growled. The device exploded in his hand. He screamed like a startled farm animal and dove behind a bush. Not my best morning. She stepped forward, shielding me with one arm as if she expected these anxious researchers to fire missiles at any second. "Do not approach," she warned, voice low and vibrating with dangerous instinct. "This territory is secured." "Territory?" I whispered. "This is my yard." She didn't look away from the scientists. "Then it is secured by you and therefore mine." Before I could unpack the implications of that, the lead scientist, a short woman who clearly had nerves of steel or just no sense of self-preservation, raised both hands. "We come in peace. We only want to talk." The alien warrior narrowed her eyes. "Talk? Or abduct?" "We don't abduct." The woman paused. "Not officially." That did not help. My warrior moved closer to me, almost circling me like a predator guarding a kill. I could feel the heat radiating off her, no, pouring off her. She was practically a furnace. I touched her arm gently, hoping to calm her, but the second my hand made contact, her breath hitched, and she nearly shivered. Her pupils dilated again. Her instincts were getting worse. "Hey," I whispered softly. "Look at me." She tore her gaze from the scientists, her entire focus funneling into me like I was the center of gravity. Her chest rose and fell with sharp, intense breaths. "We'll handle this," I said. Her voice was strained when she replied. "I cannot leave your side. Instinct intensifies. Hormones unstable. Distance increases agitation." "Yeah, I notice," I muttered because she had been practically glued to me all morning. Still, I stepped toward the scientists, hands raised as peacefully as a man possibly could while being shadowed by an alien warrior overheating from biological imprint madness. She followed me automatically, hovering close enough that her armor brushed my back with every step. The scientists froze again, but at least they didn't run this time. The lead scientist cleared her throat. We detected a crash. We detected a life form. And then we detected, well, whatever she is. She is extremely protective and not a fan of drones, I said. She destroyed a $2 million surveillance device, the woman said carefully. I winced. Yeah. Sorry. But to be fair, you were spying. That is literally our job, she replied. My alien snorted. Weak hunters. They're not hunters, I whispered again. Then added, stop calling humans weak. They are. Stop. She huffed, crossing her arms. Steam actually rose from her armor. I took a step back from the scientists, gently nudging her with my elbow. She responded instantly, almost pressing against me, like any distance, no matter how small, was a physical ache. The lead scientist swallowed hard. We just want to ensure Earth isn't under attack. No attack, I said. Just a crash landing. And some complicated biology. She perked up. Is it contagious? The alien warrior growled. Okay. I shouted quickly, stepping between them and raising both arms. Time out. Everyone breathe. Please don't provoke the giant woman who can yeet people into the sun. The scientists nodded. My alien rested her hand on my shoulder possessively. And that was when one of the interns tripped over a hose. He stumbled forward, flailed, and crashed straight through my wooden fence. Boards flew. He let out a scream that could have summoned wildlife from 4 counties. My alien warrior reacted instantly. She lunged forward, grabbed him by the collar, and hoisted him into the air like a misbehaving kitten. The intern shrieked so loudly even she paused, confused by the pitch. She tilted her head. Is this a mating noise? No, the intern wailed. Please put me down. I sprinted forward. Please release the terrified man-child. She reluctantly set him back on the ground. He scrambled away as fast as his legs could carry him, straight into the van. That was my breaking point. I stepped in front of her and the scientists, taking a deep breath. My voice shook, but I forced myself to speak loudly. Listen, she's not here to hurt anyone. She's injured, stranded, and dealing with a hormonal crisis. She's scared. Confused. And she needs space, not interference. Silence. The scientists blinked. The alien warrior stared at me like I had just punched a black hole for her honor. Then she whispered behind me, soft, almost stunned. No male of my kind has ever defended me. I turned, and she was looking at me like the world had tilted under her feet. Her hand reached out, trembling for the first time since I'd met her, and she brushed her fingers along my jawline. Her touch was shockingly gentle despite the overwhelming strength behind it. Her voice dropped, husky and warm. Your courage is unexpected. I swallowed hard. My skin felt like it was about to combust under her gaze. Behind us, the scientists slowly backed away toward their van, whispering about intense emotional bonding rituals and possible interspecies attachment phenomena. But we barely noticed them. She stepped closer, so close the air between us felt charged. Instincts growing stronger, she murmured. I do not understand this earth effect. I could barely breathe. What happens when it gets stronger? She leaned down, her forehead almost touching mine, her voice rolling like thunder barely held in check. Then I cannot resist you. Before I could respond, she dragged in a shaky breath and whispered. Sunrise ends the cycle. Until then, I am yours. I couldn't tell if that was a promise or a threat. Maybe it was both. The moment the sky cracked open again, the backyard lit up in a wash of neon violet that made every tree look like it had been dipped in glow-in-the-dark paint. For a second, I thought she'd summoned another atmospheric malfunction, Maybe her hormones were rebooting and taking the sky with them, but she lifted her head, sniffed the air like a seasoned predator, and muttered a single word that sounded like a growl and a curse at the same time. Extraction. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified. On one hand, this meant her people were coming to take her home. On the other, if her people were anything like her, I wasn't sure my heart, or my spine, could survive the introduction. She stood, and even with everything that had happened in the last 48 hours, she somehow managed to look both intimidating and weirdly soft at the same time. Like a warrior goddess who'd learned what pancakes were and wasn't quite sure she wanted to leave them behind. "You need to stand behind me," she said, and even though her voice was firm, there was a tiny tremor under it. "My people don't have the most delicate approach when retrieving lost soldiers." "Define delicate," I said. "They do not possess it." "Cool. Great. Very confidence-inspiring." The violet light thickened, the air vibrating like a giant was plucking invisible guitar strings above our heads. She stepped in front of me, broad shoulders squared, jaw tight. There was tension running through her posture, and it wasn't the "I'm ready for war" kind, it was the "I'm about to leave someone and I don't know how to say it" kind. I should have been relieved she was going home. Really, I should have. But instead, all I felt was the kind of heavy, sinking weight you get when a plane lands and you suddenly realize vacation is over. The sky cracked open one more time and a structure phased into existence above us, a shimmering circular ship made of metal, light, and pure. "You don't belong anywhere near this." Energy. A beam descended, humming loud enough to rattle my teeth. She glanced at me. It wasn't dramatic or tearful. She just looked like she was memorizing my face faster than she was ready to admit. "It has been chaotic," she said, brow furrowing like she was trying to translate her own emotions into something less embarrassing. "And unexpected. And inconvenient. And," she exhaled sharply, "pleasant." "You can't just call someone pleasant after suplexing them twice," I said. She smirked. "I did warn you my dominance technique was compromised." I was never going to live that sentence down. The beam brightened, and she stepped toward it, but halfway there she slowed. Something in her hesitated, like the gravity of her world wasn't quite pulling her hard enough. She turned back to me, her usually sharp expression softening in a way that would have made me faint earlier in the day. "There is a custom," she said slowly, carefully, "before parting with someone one has imprinted on." My heart did something extremely concerning. "Is this like a ceremonial handshake or something?" "No." "Good. Because I'm not sure your species shakes hands without breaking wrists." She ignored that. Instead, she took one long step toward me, then another, until she was right in front of me, towering and warm and radiating that same strange, dizzying pull that had started all this chaos. For a second, I thought she was going to tackle me again, but instead she rested her forehead against mine, gentle, deliberate, and surprisingly tender. A pulse of heat washed through the air, not overwhelming like before, just warm, grounding, a kind of hum that settled into my chest. "It means," she murmured, her breath brushing my lips, "that if I ever return, you will know why." And then, before I could even process that, she pulled back and stepped into the beam. The light swallowed her slowly, like the world was trying to savor every inch of her before letting her go. Her silhouette blurred. Her outline dissolved. One moment she was there, fierce and impossible, and the next the beam snapped shut, the ship flickered into nothing, and the sky went back to being entirely too normal. Silence settled over the yard, broken only by the quiet buzz of the porch light, and the very distant sound of my neighbor's cat knocking over something expensive again. I stood there for a long moment, trying to understand what had just happened. 48 hours ago, I was a guy on a jog. Now I was, whatever you called someone who'd been imprinted on by a 7-foot-tall intergalactic warrior whose idea of asserting dominance had nearly gotten NASA involved. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from NASA's automated follow-up hotline popped up. "Thank you for reporting an unidentified atmospheric event. Please rate your experience." I stared at the screen. Honestly? I muttered. 5 stars. Would be overpowered by an alien warrior again. The wind rustled through the trees like it agreed. And even though the sky was empty, I found myself glancing up anyway, because somewhere out there, a certain warrior was sitting on a ship, maybe thinking about pancakes, maybe thinking about Earth's ridiculous atmosphere, maybe thinking about me. And if she ever came back? Yeah. I was definitely going to stretch first this time.